welcome to the Tea and the Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
Today's episode is going to be about blue plaques. What is a blue plaque?
I was going to say, what is a blue plaque?
What is a plaque? Yeah, I need to leave you do that. I need to leave a little pause for you to go, what is that? What is a biscuit, Dominic? What is a blue plaque?
And just what is a blue plaque,
Just
Dominic?
what is a blue plaque, Dominic? Well, Dominic is going to tell you what a blue plaque is. It's a plaque that's blue.
for some reason, it just popped in my head that Friends bit, you know, wants his blue blazer back. But he says he wants his blue blazer black. And she goes, you just said he wants his blue blazer black. Why would he want his blue blazer black? I don't know.
Blue blazer.
Blue plaque. It's not the easiest thing to say.
Blue plaque. It's a lot of L's in it. A blue plaque is usually a round blue plaque that's stuck on a building by the English Heritage Site.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the laws differ in Scotland. I mean, and it's usually around, like, the
is
London...
it only in England?
I think it's only in England. English Heritage. I think Scottish Heritage do a similar thing.
And what about in Wales?
Well, England and Wales. It was started by a politician, William Ewart, in 1866 in London to mark the homes and workplaces of famous people. Basically,
okay.
You know, like someone of note, you know, someone who's like, oh yeah, you know, we should celebrate these people. They're not famous enough, you know, put something permanent on that building. And it could be the birthplace of someone famous, or it could be like somewhere that they worked. Mm-hmm. And it, you know, it's usually that kind of thing. It's like usually a blue plaque. Sometimes they can be a square, or, you know, local councils and whatever can have their own thing, as long as they have the name of the committee that's done it. Usually originally it was the Society of Arts, then it was London County Council, then the Greater London Council, now it's English Heritage who do it all over England.
So we have something sort of similar in Texas.
Historical markers?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's the same all over the United States and not just in Texas, but historical markers, it's essentially the same thing.
It's to commemorate anything, really. You can commemorate anything that happened on that site.
Oh, with a blue plaque?
I think, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just literally like, you know, Freddie Mercury lived here.
Well,
you know?
Yeah. I lived here, and, you know, English Heritage did that one. John Betjeman, you know, these are examples. John Betjeman, the 43 Cloth Fair in London. Charlie Chaplin, 287 Kennington Road, London. Winston Churchill, you know, in Kensington and Chelsea. 28 Hardpike.
But
Roald Dahl's is the one. Mrs. Pratchett's former sweet shop in Llandaff, Cardiff, commemorating the mischief a young Dahl played on her by putting a mouse in the gobstoppers jar.
Oh, yeah.
So that was something he did,
mm-hmm.
and it was like a famous story, and they were like, oh, well, we'll commemorate that with a blue plaque, you know?
Yeah, because it's quite like something out of Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka, and I think they probably put it in Willy Wonka, didn't they?
No.
Oh.
But how did they decide? Because someone like Winston Churchill, for example, had several different residences, let's say, around Britain.
I mean, I think it's
Do all of them then get a plaque? Winston Churchill lives here,
I guess
or whatever?
so. You can, like, sponsor someone to get it.
Okay. So it's a little bit like a historical marker combined with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
It's kind of like that. To be eligible for an English Heritage blue plaque in London, the famous person concerned must have been dead for 20 years or have passed the centenary of their birth. It says fictional characters are not eligible, but Sherlock Holmes has one.
A blue plaque?
Yeah.
It's blue.
It's blue. Yeah, English Heritage did it. And I looked that up and I was like, well, if fictional characters aren't
that must
eligible,
really confuse people who think Sherlock Holmes was a real person.
Because I mean, I guess the Sherlock Holmes Society were like, he's enough of a real person to people that he should have his own blue plaque now. But it's like Conan Doyle has got one.
Yeah.
Who created it.
It's a bit odd, isn't it?
Ian Fleming's got one, but there's no, like, James Bond.
Yeah, well, James Bond isn't dead yet, is he? He keeps
Sherlock
coming
Holmes
back.
isn't dead yet either.
Sherlock Holmes died in the... Yeah, he died at the end, didn't he?
Spoilers. Sorry for everyone who hasn't seen the books or read the movies.
That's really...
and another criteria is be considered eminent by a majority of members of their own profession. So I imagine all the detectives were like, yeah, Sherlock Holmes, he deserves a blue plaque. He's quite good. He is.
Oh my god, that is really weird. That's like 4 out of 5 dentists agree, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, it's like
4 out of 5 detectives agree that Sherlock Holmes should have a blue plaque. Have made an outstanding contribution to human welfare or happiness.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes, has he been? Yeah, I mean, yeah.
What then? Are they going to give Harry Potter or Dumbledore a blue plaque somewhere? They'll give Dumbledore a blue plaque up in Scotland.
When J.K. Rowling dies, yeah, has it been 20 years since Dumbledore died?
I've been Alnwick. I never.
If J.K. Rowling writes a little thing where Dumbledore lived, outside of Hogwarts.
Yeah.
And it's like a real place, then you can bet they will put a blue plaque there. Dumbledore, greatest wizard ever to have ever lived here, and
Yeah. Okay, so there's one stipulation to have a blue plaque, though, is you have to be dead, right?
You have to be dead or at least 100.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Or, so,
So, like, for instance, there is a plaque, I think, on John Lennon's house in Liverpool.
Yeah.
But there's not one on Paul McCartney's house.
Yeah, because Paul McCartney's still alive.
And again, that's weird, isn't it? Because Paul McCartney is another person who had several houses in Liverpool, I think. Is there a blue plaque on every one of them? I don't think so.
No, I mean, it's like someone's got to, like, propose it to
this house.
Yeah, put a petition together to English Heritage.
I mean, the houses.
And I mean, the National Trust have it now, so it's a case of, like, that's a shoe-in for, like, a heritage site.
Yeah.
I
mean, I think the reason why they give tours of those houses in particular is because that's where they lived when they became the Beatles.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, the house that he was born in or whatever,
Benjamin Franklin has a blue plaque.
Yeah. I mean, he was British, wasn't he?
Once owned a property in Preston city centre on the corner of Cheapside and Friargate.
Yeah, was he born in Britain, Benjamin Franklin?
I don't know if I think he must have owned a property. Well, he obviously owned a property over there, but yeah,
That's really
it's, like Jimi Hendrix and Handel.
Yeah.
George Frederick Handel and Jimi Hendrix side by side on 25 and 23 Brook Street, Mayfair, London.
Oh, wow.
That's like, yeah, so Jimi Hendrix, you just have to have lived there.
Yeah.
For a matter. I think Kenneth Williams has got one. It's
just a matter of somebody going, oh, so-and-so used to live here. We should put a plaque on this building.
Yeah.
And so what? So if a building gets a plaque as having historical significance, does that automatically mean this building can never be torn down now? Because it's been recognized as having historical significance?
No, because...
For whatever reason.
Oh, Charles Darwin, Biological Sciences Building, University College, Camden, Gower Street. There you go. He must have worked there.
Yeah.
The earliest one to survive is Napoleon III in King Street, St. James's.
Okay.
And that was put up in 1867. And,
the year after they decided to start
doing this, yeah.
Wow.
And the thing is, he was still alive, Napoleon III. He was still ruler of France at the time, so it was like...
That's weird.
I guess, he must have, somebody must have just like, oh yeah, there was no criteria back then.
Yeah. That's weird. Okay, but you say the oldest
in
to
total,
survive.
The Society of Arts put up 35 plaques, fewer than half of which survive today.
Okay, so they do tear down the buildings sometimes then.
Yeah, because...
They're just like, oh yeah, Mozart used to live here, but eh.
The first one to be unveiled in 1867 was to commemorate Lord Byron at his birthplace in 24 Hall Street, or Hollis Street.
Okay.
In Cavendish Square. The house was demolished in 1889. So that doesn't survive anymore. But I think now there's more kind of like, there's a blue plaque on that building now, so that's kind of like...
It's an important building.
It's listed. I don't know if there's like a correlation between it's listed now automatically, or if it's just a case of like,
If you don't know what we're talking about when we say listed, we did a whole podcast.
Yes, we did a whole
buildings.
podcast, so you can go
a
listen
while
to that.
ago. Yeah,
listed buildings,
and
like they've over the years, and the City of London has their own kind of like. I don't think English Heritage oversee that. I think that's the City of London.
Oh yeah.
So they've got like Samuel Johnson. You were looking at these ones on Wikipedia now. The Society of Arts plaque on Samuel Johnson's house. He created the first dictionary.
But it's not blue.
It's not blue. It's like brown or something. But the blue. That's the blue plaque is what's known. I mean, you could go around London.
Yeah.
And on a like one of these things. If you ever go to London, you've got like, I don't know, 3 weeks, and you've seen everything, and you don't know what to do. Go find all the blue plaques. That's the game. That's a new game.
Yeah, no, it is.
Because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Especially in central London. And, it's like you're walking along the street and you're like, oh, it catches your eye on a building. You're like, who's that? You know? And it'll tell you who it is. It'll be like, for example, London County Council, William Bligh, 1754 to 1817, commander of the Bounty, lived here. And that's the famous Captain Bligh of the Bounty,
No, it's really interesting walking around London because the plaques are blue. They kind of jump out at you more than like like when I think that's what I'm walking through like
because it's white,
an old town center somewhere here in the States, and I see a historical marker. I mean, they're quite distinctive. Usually they're like on a sidewalk. Sometimes they're on the side of a building. They're much like longer because they give like the whole story to do with whatever the situation was about the place or the person or know whatever happened, but they don't necessarily like grab your attention the same way this bright blue plaque on a white building or a brick building in London does.
Because I mean white buildings, because I mean I didn't even really notice them so much my first trip to London, but then I guess with you on the second one it was kind of like, oh yeah, there's a load of them.
I think it was
who's that guy,
I think it was because maybe on your first trip to London
I wasn't really looking for stuff, I was just doing
you're looking
stuff.
for all the main things,
the main points of the
like Tower of London,
Big Ben, and
you're looking for all of that Westminster Abbey and everything. So
I think the funniest one, though, was John Lennon and George Harrison.
I was going to say we have to tell that story because that was just so hilarious.
Because on Baker Street, there's a blue. I saw it as well. It's a Sherlock Holmes museum.
Yeah, we went to Baker Street
Baker Street
just to go see 221B Baker Street.
And
just
there's a
so we
Beatles
can say
shop
we've
right
been
next
there.
door too.
Yeah. There's a Sherlock Holmes museum, there's a Beatles shop. But you keep walking down, and if you're a Beatles fanatic like me and Dominic, then you know that the Beatles also had a store on Baker Street.
An actual store that they actually worked in.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
They toiled, okay?
They were there for the opening, anyway. And it was like they sold psychedelic stuff, clothes, and their albums.
The Apple Boutique,
Yeah, it was the Apple Boutique, yeah.
And they opened it in like 1967.
And it was a big psychedelic painting on the outside of the building. It was a corner lot,
Yeah,
so
I think it's a bank now, or it's a building society.
Yeah,
or something.
you walk by it now, and it's just brick. It's not really distinctive at all.
They had it painted by Simon and the Fool painters.
Yeah. In the
60s. And it was all psychedelic and everything, but of course all the surrounding business was like, no, got to paint it white. Can't have all that psychedelia around here.
Yeah.
So we're like, we'll just paint it white and project it onto the onto the building. But that thing, and then I guess they just lost interest. They lost money.
It's just brick now, isn't it? It just looks kind of like all the other buildings.
It's just brick,
yeah. But on the building, there's a blue plaque because obviously, it had something to do with the Beatles. It was somebody was like, oh, there should be a plaque on this building. But the hilarious thing is what the plaque says, because it's not like, it wasn't their house. They didn't live there.
They didn't live there.
They, whatever some of the other situations are that these people get these blue plaques. it was like, you know, they owned this building that was a store.
Yeah, I mean, their Apple company
So
that they formed in 1967.
So the blue plaque on this building says...
It says John Lennon, and then it says their dates of birth and... Well, I think it says that. Their dates of birth and dates of death. John Lennon and George Harrison worked here. And that is it. Worked here. Like they were shop assistants or something, you know. It's like they worked here, you know. And it's like... I guess I don't even think it says, because we got a picture of it somewhere. We might put it up on.
I mean, I guess if you just knew who John Lennon and George Harrison were, and you weren't like a big Beatles fan, and you read that, you would probably think like, oh, maybe this was something to do like before they got
like
into the Beatles,
you know, John Lennon and George Harrison, they wanted to make their fortune, so they came down and they worked in a shop.
Yeah,
that used to thing. It was a sweet shop.
Yeah,
you know, they were handing out sweets, or it was a fish and chip shop, or it was a something, and they just worked here together.
Yeah, they came to London and worked here
before Simon Cowell walked in and said, "I'm going to make you 2 stars."
Yes. I don't know if you guys find that as funny as we do, but when we saw that, we were just like,
we started cracking up,
yeah,
and people were just like, "Oh, what? You know, what? You know."
We were just dying. John Lennon and George Harrison worked here.
Worked here.
But yeah, so the plaques. But that was my first plaque, I think, that I had seen that said anything other than lived here.
Yeah, or was born here.
Yeah.
Usually it's born here, you know, it's a childhood home, and if it's still around. I mean, for example, like Sean, you know, like if the buildings are no longer there, if the area's kind of been cleared.
Yeah.
And a famous person, like, for example, in Fountain Bridge in Edinburgh, it's largely been redeveloped now, you know, since Sean Connery was a kid.
Yeah.
And they put up a blue plaque on one of the buildings in the general area because they couldn't find, like, you know, the exact spot.
Oh, yeah?
And it just said Sean Connery was born in Edinburgh, here, Fountain Bridge, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess they have to put his date of death on it now, or whatever, you know, which I guess they would.
That's interesting.
I guess
it's a little bit like what's
he was still alive when they put it up, though.
It's a little bit like, what's the point of putting the plaque up if it's not the actual building anymore? Because anybody who's a Sean Connery fan can just go, oh yeah, Sean Connery's from around right around here somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, if you put it on the building and it's this big, tall, like, glass skyscraper, it's just like, Sean Connery was not born in that building, you know?
Well, yes.
I don't know, it seems a little bit kind of ridiculous, but...
I mean, because, having been dead for 20 years, yeah, I mean, the plaques are like, that's basically what the whole thing is, the scheme is for. Mm-hmm. It's like to commemorate someone. Yeah. Like, oh, they lived here and they were a public figure. Mm-hmm. You know,
were we watching some show at one point or something where they were talking about, luckily I don't have a blue plaque yet or something because they're not dead, you know. Oh, I can't have it. Maybe it might have even been Paul McCartney who said it, actually. You know, oh, I can't have a blue plaque yet because, you know, I'm still alive. It's like, thankfully, I don't have a blue plaque.
I guess so, yeah.
I can't remember who it was.
It was some documentary, yeah. But no, that's another of the criterias, have lived or worked in that building. Okay. In London, excluding City of London and Whitehall, because they have their own way of doing things. Yeah. For a significant period in time or importance within their life and work. Be recognizable to the well-informed passerby or deserve national recognition.
Isn't there now, like...
So it's like a case of, like, John Betjeman.
Which is who?
Exactly. He was a poet. I think he was poet laureate as well, actually. And he wrote... I know he wrote poems. I can't remember... I mean, people are probably screaming at me now that, oh, he wrote this, he wrote that.
It sounds a bit familiar, but...
What he wrote, it's blank now without a Google search. Mm-hmm. But, you know, he was a poet. I think he was poet laureate, too. Yeah. For a long time. And, you know, but exactly, you know, who's that? You know, and there's a lot of, like, blue plaques that are just, like, John Smith, you know. Yeah. It's like, who's that? Oh, he invented pencils.
Yes.
Invented the pencil, lived here. I was like, oh, that's mildly interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea who invented the pencil, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Who invented the skip, you know.
Yeah.
Bobby Moore, you know. It's just like, it's an Alan Partridge joke.
I seem to think there was some travel vloggers we were watching that were just like going by, and they were like, oh, Jimi Hendrix apparently lived here. You know, they were just like literally walking by a building, and then they noticed, oh, there's a blue plaque here. Oh, that's interesting. You know?
Like, for example, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he was the founder of Pakistan.
Okay, yeah.
35 Russell Street, Kensington, London, at the house where he stayed while in London in 1895.
Okay.
But he's the founder of Pakistan, so
it was
he gets
just
a plaque.
It was just a house where he stayed for a while. That's so weird. Yeah.
I mean, Jimi Hendrix too. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
He stayed there. He wasn't really living there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess he was.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think he did for a while. What I was going to say though is, so I guess sometimes you can you be denied for this? Can you apply to have a blue plaque on a place and get denied?
Well, here we go. T. Lawrence, 14 Barton Street, Westminster, SW1, and another at 2 Polstead Road, Oxford, Ox2, which was his childhood home. So he's got one in Oxford and he's got one in London.
Okay.
And I mean, you know, John Lennon has one in Mendips and he has one in Baker Street. And I'm sure there's probably one on Savile Row, too, on 3 Savile Row.
Yeah.
You know, the Abercrombie and Fitch, there's probably a blue plaque.
Maybe, I don't remember.
I can't remember seeing it, but they're probably going to have to put up one at some point.
There is one, the point I was getting to, and I asked if you can get denied to have a blue plaque, is because, do you remember when we were in Liverpool and we went and saw the art college that he went to, which was right next door to the school that George Harrison and Paul McCartney went to school? Yeah. And they would at lunch practice and play for the students, whatever.
There was a plaque up.
There was a plaque on the art college, but it was not a blue plaque.
It was black.
It was just black, I think.
Yeah, they can. I mean, local councils and they have different criteria, and you can apply to the local council, say, oh, I just found out that the inventor of the skip lived here when he was born, and we all use skips, so we should celebrate that. And skip is like a dumpster for
I was gonna say
and the inventor of I don't know, the cardboard box, it's just like he lived here, or she lived here, And it's like, I think this needs to be recognized, and they can find out about them.
Yeah.
Are they dead? Are they still alive? It's like, no, they've been dead for 50 years. So,
but if you don't get a blue plaque, then there's nothing stopping you putting your own plaque up.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
I suppose there isn't, especially if you own the property. I mean,
so
but it's got to be a person of significance.
Yeah.
For English heritage
there
to
was
do it.
A show that we were watching, House Through Time.
Yeah. And
the point of this show is this guy, it's sort of like, if you guys have ever seen Who Do You Think You Are, the show where people find out, get their DNA.
Genealogy.
Actually, I don't think it's anything to do with their DNA. It's just literally tracing their family tree, and they find out who certain members in their family tree were, different stories of people that, were in their family tree. So this is sort of the same thing, but with a house. It's like kind of the house's family tree. Yeah, it's like
pretty much the provenance.
Who all has lived there since the house, was built, and which families, and which people, and da 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 da. So they found out, I can't remember who it was now that lived there, but the people, he goes and he tells then the current owners of the house who all has lived in that house and all their different stories that they were able to find out. And I think the owners were like, "Oh, I'd like to see about getting a blue plaque for." I think he was a composer, or he was maybe he was a scientist actually. But the owners were like, "Oh yeah,
we need to get a blue plaque for him." We didn't know he lived here, and it was a significant time. He was.
I think it was something to do with Charles Darwin actually. Yeah, about the evolution of sea critters of some kind or something. Do you remember?
Yes, that? I remember it. It was around Birmingham somewhere, I think it was.
Yeah, so I guess it's a bit of a feather in your cap, I guess, to own a property that has that kind of that has a blue plaque on it.
It boosts the value.
Yeah,
yes.
Because somebody
I live in this house.
Historical
Charles Darwin, lived here for several years, and we only just now found out about that. Yeah, it's like I can add another several $100,000 onto the price. It's just like but it's that it's like, but it doesn't mean like we're just going to demolish it now. You know, it's not like a listed building. Yeah. I mean, maybe probably it's architecture, I guess.
If they wanted to demolish it though, and people knew, oh, I pass by that every day, and that's got a plaque that says, he
was born here, or someone was born here.
Yeah. Don't actually let them.
Yeah, you can protest.
Don't let them tear that down, because that's pretty cool that whoever was from there. I think it would be so fun to like live in London. I mean, I don't know how, if you lived in London,
it'd be so fun.
How would you ever be bored? You could never like get away with saying, "Ugh, bored. There's nothing to do."
Let's go out and find all the blue plaques.
Well, not even find all of them, but just like, let's go on a little adventure and see how many we can find. See, like, sort of like
we can wear our anoraks, and we can carry our little notebooks, and we can tally them up. Yes, we'll be plaque spotters. Instead of train spotters, we can be plaque spotters.
Do you happen to know how many? Do they say
there's
anywhere?
There's over 900 in London.
Just in London?
Just in London,
oh my gosh.
No, over 900 official plaques have been put up in London by English Heritage and its precinct.
And that's going to take a lot more than one board weekend to find all of those.
Our aim is, over 900 official of them, So there's probably a bunch of unofficial as well.
What do you mean unofficial, though? What does that mean?
That aren't English Heritage, they've just been...
People just put up a blue plaque to try to fake other people.
No, I think
like if we lived there, you would go, all right, I'm going to put up a blue plaque, Dominic Williams lives here.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could just get a blue plaque and have your name.
Imagine people who were like just
who was that? It's like, me.
just literal nobodies, and they're like, I'm gonna put a blue plaque on that house that I was born in, and it's just like, oh, John Smith was born there.
Dominic Williams.
Who's John Smith?
Me. I put it up yesterday. And it's like, I'm really proud of that. And I walk by this house every day. And I see, I was born there. Live across the road now.
Oh my God. You know that at some point
somebody's
since 1890, whatever, somebody has done that. Somebody's just like big up themselves, like I'm way more important than people are giving me credit for.
Yes.
Like I really deserve a blue plaque on that house.
I'm considered eminent by a majority of my peers.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean,
So there are non-official ones then floating around.
Yeah, I mean, it's like bodies such as local councils and put up commemorative plaques.
So maybe just
the black one was probably by like the local authority of it was in is it in where in Liverpool? Where is it? It's in
what? The college?
Yeah. What is the area? The Dingle, isn't it?
No.
It's in the Dingle?
The art college? No, it's just near town. I don't know.
Near town. Well, I thought the Dingle was near town.
Okay, so here's my other question then. So then what it sounds like to me is like, let's say the people of that little dead-end street that of the house where George Harrison was born. Like all the neighbors of that street could get together.
They've tried to put a plaque on the house.
If the people that live there were okay with it, though, they could just all band together. Well, we want a plaque on this house.
Yes.
And put up and pay
yeah.
and put their money in and
they put a proposal to the
and there's nobody that's gonna go, nah, you can't do that.
I mean,
so John Smith could put a plaque on the house he was
I
born
guess
in.
So I guess
as long as nobody objected to it. The people living there were like,
you
are
have
you
to
John Smith? Okay,
presume they'd have to presume he was like a figure of national importance.
Yeah.
You know, like he'd done something like, you know...
That just cracks me up endlessly to think that you could be walking around on one of these little blue plaque scavenger hunts and see John Smith's plaque and go, oh God, who was he?
Well, we do that anyway.
Yeah, I guess so. With some of the people who actually are or
Elias
were important.
Howe, you know.
Yeah.
Blue plaque for Elias Howe. He invented the typewriter, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like... You know, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I didn't know
I didn't know the guy.
I didn't know that. That's
I didn't
interesting.
know. I didn't know. I didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
No, I saw though, because people that you don't even associate with Britain have blue plaques. Like, I didn't realize that because Mozart's got a blue plaque. I'm sure I've seen that somewhere.
Yeah. He lived in London, or he stayed there.
For some point, yeah. It's
point.
just like that.
Anyone, you know, will handle too, you know.
So, but we're not talking like on hotels, like, oh, Mozart stayed in this hotel at one night.
No,
blue plaque. It's like the whole side of the hotel.
No, that's just
for
the hotel to say, oh, so and so stayed here for a night, you know.
Yeah. But if they're stuck up hotel, they wouldn't do it anyway. They just want to keep that to themselves because it's much too important to tell everyone that's who's
much
been
too
staying
important.
there.
Yes, no. But we will say it was very important person. Oh.
All right. Well, that's interesting.
That's interesting. Blue plaques.
Yeah.
Go out and find some. Because they don't really do, historical markers over here.
Historical markers. That's about the same kind of thing.
Which... Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, it sort of does compare to the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah,
really.
But I mean, that's
ways,
nothing to do with like
where they lived
or where they worked.
No, that's true.
Like the Ed Sullivan Theatre.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's renamed the Ed Sullivan Theatre, and close it. But they could put a plaque up saying Ed Sullivan worked here. You know.
Yeah.
And, Ed Sullivan Show or whatever. Or, like, I don't know.
The Beatles and Elvis had their first big live performances.
This is in this building, yeah.
Yeah. And they may, I don't know.
That's kind of, they may, but it's kind of like, then, I don't know, anyone who got their big break on Ed Sullivan could come and say, well, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got my. I was on David Letterman. Was it Letterman who used to? Yeah, it was Letterman. Yeah. I was on Letterman, and now I'm a huge star.
Then it would be like that hotel in London that's got all the blue plaques all down the side for everybody that ever stayed there. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I never really understood why the Hollywood star thing, why people want to go see that, because like you said, it's nothing but their name, really.
They were there for
I suppose so.
Well, the ones who were still alive.
But in that case, I prefer to go see the prints outside of Grauman's Chinese Theater and stuff. Their actual signature in the cement and their handprints and their feet prints. To me, that's cooler, I guess, if you want to see that kind of thing. But it is similar in the same way that I think people get sponsored to get those stars, and you have to pay and all of that kind of thing. You have to have somebody say, "Oh, I think so and so deserves a star."
Yes.
You can't just say, "I think I deserve a star, please." But yeah. Anyway, I hope you found this episode interesting, and if not, we're awfully sorry about that.
Yes, this was one of our best episodes yet.
I think it was a good episode.
I actually like it. No, I wasn't
topic.
Being sarcastic. I was actually being truthful.
It's a very interesting topic, okay? I find it quite interesting, I'll have you know. And I hope you thought so too. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we appreciate your support. Be sure to check us out on social media. If you don't follow us already, we are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at TButty, TEABUTTY. We also have a Patreon page where you can unlock more episodes,
Greatest
and
episodes,
posts
great ones.
and discussions, and just help us come up with content for the podcast and all kinds of stuff. We are on patreon.com
we are
/Tea and a Buddy,
yes.
I think is how you find us on there. Yeah.
And you may want to know that this episode is going out on someone's birthday.
Oh, no.
Yes.
They don't need to know that.
Yes, they do. They do need to know that, so they can chip in and buy you a blue plaque.
Yeah.
Where's it going to go, eh?
Imagine I put it on the house I was born and everybody's just like, what?
Who's that? She was born here.
Why is this horrible blue plaque? What is this? What's going on?
And they're going to
here?
have like a photo of you just attached next to it, just like a baby photo of you, just like that. But yes, it's Erica's birthday today, so happy birthday.
Thank you very
to
much.
Erica.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you next time.
We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.